Celebrities endorse presidential candidates. California vetoes an AI safety bill. And the vice presidential debate happened. It was shockingly nice. Then more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. You know, I'm going to be real with you. Americans have a lot to worry about these days. War is escalating in the Middle East between Israel and Lebanon and now Iran as well. And the Russia-Ukraine war is showing no signs of slowing down. Couple that with China's increasing aggression towards Taiwan, and it feels like the U.S. military could be dragged into multiple wars at any moment. But what's likely? Weighing even more heavily on Americans' minds right now, with the election just over 4 weeks away. What we're all waiting for with bated breath to find out is, which celebrities are endorsing each candidate? Because this is the USA where we enjoy freedom of speech to think and say whatever our favorite TV chef tells us to. Trump is endorsed by the likes of Hulk Hogan, Kid Rock, and Lady Gaga's dad. But many Hollywood stars who might support Trump could be afraid to speak out because according to Shazam star Zachary Levi, that would be career suicide. Even more so than starring in Shazam 2? Meanwhile, Harris is supported by basically the majority of Hollywood and the music industry, which sounds impressive until you remember that a lot of Hollywood and the music industry are currently sweating bullets, wondering who's going to be outed in Sean Diddy Combs' sexual assault criminal case. So banking on celebrity endorsements might not be too smart, since they could very quickly age as poorly as someone bragging about being supported by Bill Cosby. Don't sleep on that endorsement. And supporting Harris has its own pitfalls, as Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings endorsed Kamala Harris to the tune of $7 million to a donation to her super PAC, and then Netflix subscribers canceled in droves. Netflix actually saw its highest day of cancellation since February, after word of Hastings' endorsement and donation got out. Although Netflix attributed the cancellations to them getting rid of their cheapest ad-supported subscription plan. Still, it seems like publicly endorsing a presidential candidate can have consequences. This presidential election isn't just affecting celebrities, it's also affecting the youth. CNN's Anderson Cooper 360 partnered with Associate Professor and Media Psychologist Ashley Landrum to conduct interviews with 40 10-year-olds to gauge political polarization in children. Fortunately, they found that kids don't much care about politics because they're too busy being kids and holding on to the magic and carefree whimsy of childhood. Just kidding. These interviews found that the 10-year-olds often have very strong political opinions, likely filtered to them through their parents or the media.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear Donald Trump?
Pure evil.
Landrum released a report of her findings in these interviews conducted at elementary schools in Blue State, New Jersey, Red State, Texas, and Battleground State, Arizona. In the report, she wrote that among this small sample size, Blue State and Democrat-supporting children are more likely to drive polarization, with many of them saying they wouldn't be friends with someone who supported Trump. No word on if they'd at least pretend to be friends with them if the Trump-supporting kid had a trampoline. Meanwhile, according to the report, Red State and Purple State kids were more likely to repeat misinformation, though I'm not sure if that's because of where they were from or because they're 10. Many 10-year-olds still tell people that Santa lives in a workshop on the North Pole, which is ridiculous. He lives in a house near the workshop. His elves live in the workshop because OSHA doesn't check for violations in places that cold. But this does show that the hyperpolarization in American politics is being passed down to children, which can't be healthy for them or for the future of the nation. Maybe we should pump the brakes on all the divisive rhetoric and let kids in the U.S. just worry about kid stuff, like homework, sleepovers, and school shootings. Actually, maybe politics is a less stressful thing to focus on. Speaking of things stressing people out, the East Coast dock workers strike. Last week, I spoke about how economists warned that if East Coast dock workers went on strike for a prolonged period of time, it could cripple the economy. Well, East Coast dock workers officially went on strike this week, halting about half of the U.S. shipping. This is the first large-scale dock stoppage since 1977. The dock workers' concerns include wages and rules surrounding automation. President Biden, I know, crazy, he's still president, I forgot too, released a statement in support of the striking workers, saying it's time for USMX to negotiate a fair contract with the longshoremen that reflects the substantial contributions they've made to making our economic comeback. It's been a tense situation, because the longer the strike, the more backed up the supply chain gets, which could lead to shortages and higher prices, which would affect the economy, which could affect the presidential election, further fueling division and making kids even more politically polarized. Which is probably why the dock workers and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents ports and shipping companies, quickly reached a deal where the dock workers agreed to suspend their strike until January to allow time to negotiate a new contract. It's been rough, but on the bright side, at least people didn't panic buy toilet paper again over it. What's that, Shelley? Oh, they did. We truly live in the dumbest timeline. And after the break, the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Welcome back. Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 hurricane. It caused devastation across 5 states in the South, leaving at least 215 dead in its wake and wiping communities off the map, with 40 trillion gallons of rain dumped in the South. Yes, I said trillion with a T, leading both California and Arizona to request, hey, can we get a little bit of that water? Helene dumped so much water and caused so much damage in North Carolina that mules were used to deliver aid as major roads were rendered impassable by vehicles. Yes, mules. They were able to deliver supplies to even mountainous areas and can carry up to 200 pounds each. As if the footage coming out of these states wasn't enough, you know how bad the situation is when humans are using animals for jobs that cars replaced a century ago. On the bright side, maybe this means that all the jobs that AI is taking from humans won't be permanent. As soon as Mother Nature unleashes her might, humans can take back their careers, just like the majestic horse donkey. Speaking of AI, California Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed an AI safety bill. The Safe and Secure Innovation for Frontier Artificial Intelligence Models Act, or SB 1047, would have required testing of AI models to ensure they don't lead to mass death, attacks on public infrastructure, or cyber attacks. I think I can guess what the writers of the act have been watching. It would have also created protection for whistleblowers. The California legislature overwhelmingly passed the bill, with many seeing it as a potential blueprint for national AI regulation. However, Newsom, who looks like a Terminator sent through time to destroy the world's supply of hair gel and teeth whitener, shot it down. California Senator Scott Wiener, in a statement, says, "This veto leaves us with the troubling reality that companies aiming to create an extremely powerful technology face no binding restrictions from U.S. policymakers." However, in his veto message, Newsom explains that while he thinks the bill was well-intentioned, it was short-sighted in that it only went after the largest AI models. He explains smaller, specialized models may emerge as equally or even more dangerous than the models targeted by SB 1047, at the potential expense of curtailing the very innovation that fuels advancement in favor of the public good. He also criticized the broadness of the bill, saying, while well-intentioned, SB 1047 does not take into account whether an AI system is developed in high-risk environments, involves critical decision-making, or the use of sensitive data. Instead, the bill applies stringent standards to even the most basic functions, so long as a large system deploys it. So essentially, one side is afraid of AI companies having no major regulations, while Newsom fears innovation could be stifled, while at the same time not addressing the entirety of the issue. It's a complex situation, but at least one thing is clear. Silicon Valley, which adamantly opposed the bill, sure is happy now. So it's a celebration going on over there. But don't worry, Silicon Valley would never do anything immoral just for profit, right? Right? And the one and only vice presidential debate took place between JD Vance and Tim Walz, hosted by CBS. Walz was said to be nervous ahead of the debate, but he did very well, despite occasionally looking like he had resting dog trying to hide the fact there's something in his mouth face. And going into it, some said Vance needed to improve his image, because apparently, possibly wearing eyeliner wasn't image improving enough. But who won? Shockingly, civility. The two Midwesterners kept it cordial, even finding common ground.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate, and I think there was a lot of commonality here, and I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator.
Me too, man.
There's one.
Candidates finding places to agree with each other, being polite, and acknowledging they both want success for America but just disagree on the methods. Is it too late to make these two the candidates? I'm so tired of word salads and insults. Man, so tired. There were, of course, some testy moments, like CBS moderators cutting Vance's mic at one point and fact-checking him despite agreeing not to beforehand, and the candidates accusing the other side of being a threat to democracy.
Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship.
You can tell how bad division in America has gotten based on the fact that you can accuse someone of being a fundamental threat to democracy, and the overall sentiment afterwards is, that was refreshingly civil. But while this debate was a breath of fresh air compared to other recent debates, there is one main gripe I had with it. They refused to include America Uncovered's officially endorsed presidential candidate, Chris Christie. He should be his own vice president, because the only person capable of replacing Chris Christie is Chris Christie. Get to work on cloning technology, science. Do it for America. And do it for the children. Speaking of kids, you know what they need more of in their life? Video games. So grab your kids or your parents, for my young viewers, and head over to my other channel, Gamers Unbeaten, and check out this video about why Japan is so much cooler than China. And America Uncovered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.